Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to be testing out a new to me affordable eyeshadow brand. It is the brand Ccolor Cosmetics. I just got in my first order that I placed just about a week and a half ago from Ccolor Cosmetics. I ordered 3 palettes from them, and they are a brand that you guys have been suggesting that I try for quite a while now. They're also a brand I've seen creepy up in some of the YouTube videos that I watched from some of my favorite creators, and most importantly to someone like me, they are affordable. So needless to say, I am very excited about this video. For those of you that are not familiar with Ccolor Cosmetics, they are an eyeshadow, well, they're a makeup brand that is really known for duping some popular high-end eyeshadow palettes. They have dupes for Anastasia Beverly Hills, they have dupes for Natasha Denona, Jeffree Star, I've seen Huda Beauty dupes over there, I've seen even Dominique Cosmetics. There are a lot of options, but ultimately I ended up picking out 3 and I want to share them with you guys today. So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys each of the palettes, sharing the details, how much it costs, the swatches, all of that good stuff, of course which palettes they are supposed to dupe, and then we're going to be creating an eye look using one of the palettes. Now I have tried out one of these palettes over the last 4 or 5 days and kind of gotten to know it, which I will get into as we get further along in the video. For the palette I'm using to create today's look, it is one that I have not tried out yet. It is also one that is duping a different brand, so I'm very curious to see if their formula is the same regardless of which palette or brand they're trying to dupe. So of course I will share all that information with you guys in this video, but I hope that you guys are excited about it. I am very excited to play with these. I have been pretty impressed with the one that I've been trying out so far, but good heavens, this is the longest intro ever. Let's get into this video, but before we do, special welcome to those of you that are new to my channel. I hope that if you have not yet subscribed, and of course if you enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, all that good stuff. And now let's go ahead and take a look at these palettes. All right, you guys, so these are the 3 palettes I ended up picking up. First off, this one right here, this is their golden palette, which is meant to dupe the Natasha Denona gold palette. I really wanted to pick up what I think is called their Savannah palette, which is supposed to dupe the Natasha Denona Safari palette. However, I do actually already own a dupe of that palette, and I really enjoy that dupe, so I didn't really want to buy a palette that I sort of already owned the color story from. So I decided to go with this one because this is a beautiful color story as well. It is very warm, very golden. If you are into browns and neutrals and warm tones and kind of this deep teal shade that actually reminds me a little bit of the shades inside the Dream Street palette, this is just a beautiful color story. I'm excited to give this one a try. I have not even swatched this one out yet, but this is the one that we will be using to create an eye look with today. This palette is relatively small, but guys, I am a big fan of smaller palettes, and I kind of feel like that's a theme on YouTube, and not just amongst YouTubers, but just I think among any of us that are sort of accumulating a larger collection. It is really nice to have a palette that is nice and small and compact, doesn't take a lot of room to store. So I really like the packaging of this one. It's very simple, but I am totally into it. Comes with a mirror. So this palette retails for $8, which is a fantastic price. And I wanted to show you guys the pan size of this palette is very, very similar, if not exact, to the size of the pans in the traditional Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. As you can see, they're about the same size. So here is a closer view of the palette and the color story. And then I'm going to insert some swatches for you guys right here as well. There are some different shimmer formulas inside here. Some of them are a little bit more sheer, a little bit more of kind of a shimmer or glitter topper that would probably go well on top of a matte shadow underneath it, or used alone if you just want to add a little bit of sparkle to your lid. Then others seem to be a lot more opaque. For example, this brown right here, let's also swatch this gold under here that's not quite as yellow as some of the other golds inside here. These are very, very opaque, very creamy, and look how beautiful those are. I am so excited to put this color on my eyes. I think this is the one I really want to go for today. So I'm excited to give those a try. It seems like a beautiful palette. I do really like, from what I've tried so far, which is again one of the other palettes, which we'll get to this one in just a sec. From what I've tried out with this other palette so far, the mattes in that palette are really where I think their formula shines. I do like their shimmer formula, and there's some things about it that I think could be a positive or a negative depending on what you're looking for. But this one does have a little bit more variety in the formulas inside here. They do all still feel very creamy though. So let me also swatch this kind of green shade and this darker green shade as well for you guys. So this one, the darker shade is a little bit more of a, oh my gosh, that reminds me of like her Natasha Denona's creamy matte formula. It looks matte, but it feels creamy. Ooh, this one right here is really pretty. Although this one again is one of those more sheer, a little bit more, it feels very slippery and almost oily feeling. It's not like, if you're familiar with ABH's shimmers, they're very foiled and reflective, but they go on very dry feeling. ABH's formula always feels very dry to me, but not in a bad way. I mean, ABH has one of my favorite formulas out there. These feel a little bit more like they have almost like an oily base, which makes them feel and seem a little bit more sheer on the lids. Now, not all of them, but some of these more sheer or kind of topper shades have that feeling to me. And I felt the same way with the shimmers inside the next palette. Why don't we go ahead and get into that one? So the next palette that I selected was the Unisex Floor palette. This is the one that I have been trying throughout the week. I love this color story. The reason that I picked this palette up is this is supposed to be a dupe for the Dominique Cosmetics Original Latte palette. You guys might know that I've had my eye on that palette for a very long time. It was actually one of the brands I wanted to try out this year, which I may still in fact do, but in the meantime I really wanted to try out their dupe for that palette because I just think it has such a beautiful color story. I love the mattes inside here. This one does retail for $14, so it is a little bit more expensive, but you're getting a lot more shadow. So if you are someone that doesn't have a lot of shadow and you might go through a neutral palette very quickly, that could definitely be a positive for you. I mean, take a look. This is a MAC blush. These eyeshadows are almost as big as a MAC blush. That is just ginormous. So before we swatch it, I wanted to give you guys just a closer look at the shadows and the packaging, just so you can kind of see the variance of color. I actually have not tried out this shimmer right here, and I just went into finger swatch it, and this one is much more opaque than the other two. I mean, look at this shade. Okay, if you love a pewter, more cool toned, bronzy brown, that is so stunning. And then here's these two shades right here. This one right here is also quite creamy. This last one is the most sheer and lightweight of the bunch. So this is the one in the middle, and then this is the last one that was in that row. I have used these both with a primer and with a concealer as a primer, and I found that they lasted really well on my eyes both times. I don't have very oily eyes. I used to, but I don't anymore, and things tend to last on me pretty well. So just keep that in mind. This is just my experience with them. Let me go ahead and swatch a couple of these mattes as well for you guys. The mattes are so pigmented and blendable and creamy. They're really, really nice. I'm not sure if you can tell, but these are a little bit more sheer. They're not super pigmented like an ABH matte would be, where I can barely tap my brush in an ABH shadow, otherwise it's just way too pigmented. These ones are going to be a little bit more buildable, which I think actually makes them a little bit easier to work with because you don't have to be careful, which is sometimes a good thing. But they do not take long to build up, and they're really, really nice and blendable. So I have been super impressed with this palette and really having a lot of fun with it this last week. I think it's a beautiful little palette for 14 bucks, and what you're getting, it's a fantastic deal. I would have loved for this to be $8 and be the size of this palette, because then I could travel with it. I feel like this is too big for me to take traveling with me, whereas like this is the perfect size to travel with, if you know what I mean. But let's go ahead and move on to the last one that I picked up, and this is the Unisex 3 palette. So this palette is meant to be a dupe for the Jeffree Star, and I cannot remember the name of the Jeffree Star palette that this one is meant to dupe. I've never tried out anything from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. I have been curious about his eyeshadows for a very long time because I hear great things about his formula. And although generally speaking his color stories always have a couple of colors in them that scare me off a little bit, this color story is so me. This one is definitely heavier on the mattes. You only get 2 shimmers inside here. This corner kind of champagne gold, and then this kind of reddy bronze right here, which I would say is more like a copper. Let me go ahead and swatch. Sorry guys, my hands are a little bit stained. But here are the swatches of those shimmers. These ones are really nice and opaque. They're not quite as sheer as these two right here, particularly this one. I would say this one is like a true, more of like a topper formula, whereas these are nice and opaque. But this is just such a great color story for me. I am such a fan of jewel tones on my eyes, especially when it comes to matte shadows. I love a very earthy blue, like these two right here, an earthy green. I mean, this is like a khaki lime color. Oh my gosh, you guys probably can tell over the last couple months my current obsession with a really good shade of green. That's a good one. That looks beautiful. I think that will pair beautifully with this and some of the other transition shades and oranges inside here. Let's go ahead and swatch this kind of peachy orange. Oh, lovely. Okay, look at that blue. I talked in that elf video about my intimidation with blue eyeshadow. Okay, we're not going to get into my commentary on that video. That was kind of a nightmare. It was a nightmare. That's a little dramatic, Mandy. But that is so pretty. Not a shade that I would wear super often, but man, if you were into blue eyeshadow, that is a beautiful one. I think that'd be a fun one to pair with like a silver. Oh, now that's a blue I would wear. That's a very stonewashed denim kind of blue. Let's just go ahead and live swatch these last couple of colors. The two kind of purpley reds and that deep brown. So here is the deep brown. Ooh, that's nice. And there's the lighter red and the more purpley red. So yeah, these two shades again are ones that will probably need to be built up a little bit, but is that not the prettiest color story? So let me zoom you guys in. You can take a closer look at the color story of this one. And then here are the swatches. I feel like the combinations inside here are endless. You have a deep brown to deepen up anything. You even have this deep denim color, which is so beautiful. You have a classic coppery bronze and then a nice gold champagne, both of which I feel like would pair with pretty much anything else inside here. So as I mentioned, for the look we're going to be creating today, we will be using the golden palette. So I'm going to zoom you guys in just a little bit and we will get started on the eye look. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to use these more traditional bronzy colors right here, so I think I want to keep it a little bit more neutral in my crease. So I'm going to go in with this, and I am taking that on my Morphe M505 brush, only because I accidentally pulled this one out instead of my Morphe M504. I do prefer the M504 just a little bit more, but these brushes they're quite similar to each other. So I'm just placing that right above my crease on my brow bone. So now I want to add just a little bit of depth just to my actual crease. So we're going to go into this color right here, which is kind of the medium brown. And I'm going to run this color just right through my actual crease and slightly bringing it above that actual crease. So when I open my eye, it just peeks up above my crease. So that color actually looks deeper on the eye than it looks in the pan. And I'm going to go back with my M505 brush and just kind of blend those two shades together. Now with that same M507 brush, we're going to go into the deepest brown shade right here. And I'm going to add this to the outer corner. Alright, now we're going to jump into those shimmers. I'm going to start off with this lighter gold shimmer in the corner right here. This is a beautiful, beautiful shimmer. I'm going to pop that all over just the center of my lid. I'm just leaving that inner quarter of my lid open because we're going to top that with something else. And then just pulling that right past the center mark. Now I'm going to dip that M507 brush back into the deepest brown. And we're going to just add a little bit more to blend out this corner right here. To get back some of that depth that we lost when we put the shimmer there. So I kind of want to go in with this shade, which is kind of like a glitter topper that has a little bit of like a green shift to it. This is a beautiful inner corner shade. I love that little yellowy green shift that it has. Oh, it's so pretty. It's a great color to put in a palette like this because it goes with the bronzes and the browns, but it also goes with these kind of green and blue shades over here. Alright you guys, so this is the finished eyeshadow. I am just going to go in and add a little bit of liner. Let's go with my trusty Wet n Wild liner, and then I'm going to add a couple of coats of mascara. I think today I'm going to use my Bare Minerals Topia, and then I will be right back with you guys. Okay you guys, so here we are with everything finished up. Let me just share my final thoughts. I am in love with this eyeshadow look. These eyeshadows performed really well. They were really easy to work with. They built really quickly and easily. They blended really nicely. The pigmentation is great. The shimmers applied great. I did want to mention that you saw me applying the shimmers with my finger, but after I put my mascara on, I went back into this corner kind of greenish gold shade right here, initially with a small kind of rough blending brush. I didn't like how it applied then. It seemed to kind of knock some of the glitter off. This is a shade that really needs to be packed on, but then I went back in with this Cosmetics, just a really flat kind of concealer brush, and packed it on the lid, and I loved how this applied that shade right there. But I'm so impressed with these shadows. I love the color story in here. It is very neutral heavy, like warm neutral heavy, but if you are into a bronzy golden eye, this one is going to be right up your alley. For $8, this is probably the best $8 palette I own. As far as just the variety that you're getting, the quality, granted, I haven't worn this all day, so this is just quality based on how everything applied, my first impression, and just my experience with their other formula, which does feel quite similar to this. I mean, it feels very consistent, so I'm assuming this will probably wear pretty well. I will, of course, keep you guys updated. If I notice anything amiss, I will let you guys know in the description box and also leave a pinned comment. But so far, I am a big fan. I have to say, Ccolor Cosmetics, I am pretty impressed. So far, I've been really impressed with their formula, the way that they wear, how easy they are to work with. Of course, their affordability is a big factor, but I did want to share with you guys some of the things I've heard about Ccolor Cosmetics in my comment section. I would say the vast majority of people that have left me comments have had really great things to say about the palettes that they have tried, but I did hear a couple rare comments that said their shadows didn't last on them very well. They had to immediately declutter them because they just didn't work for their eyes. I also heard an interesting comment from someone that said that Ccolor's shimmer formula is one of the few that they are able to use on their eyelids because their eyelids can show texture easily. This formula worked really well for them. And after using some of their shadows and swatching them, I kind of understand where that comment is coming from. A lot of the shimmer formulas inside here are a little bit more lightweight and sheer. They don't sit very heavily on your lids, so they're not going to be very thick on your eyelids, which if you have a lot of creasing and texture in your eyelids, that can definitely emphasize that texture. So a more sheer wash of shimmer can work better for a more mature eyelid, or just an eyelid that you're sensitive to your texture showing, which can happen to a lot of us regardless of what age we are. I mean, it's definitely more of an issue as we get a little bit older, but a lot of us have folds in our eyelids that we may not love. We might even have texture on our inner corner that we don't love so much and we don't want to emphasize. So a lighter, more creamy shimmer formula I think is a little bit more forgiving when it comes to that. But as for me and my experience so far, I'm really impressed with these. I think they perform amazingly well. Their formula I think is really great. I think as far as their packaging goes, the packaging online, I really was not a big fan of the way their packaging looked online, especially because it was just so all over the place, which I recognize they're trying to dupe a bunch of different brands. They don't have one solid aesthetic, but the packaging in person I think looks better than I thought it looked online. It's nice and sturdy. This cardboard packaging is really nice and sturdy. I do love cardboard packaging. I think I prefer it typically. It doesn't feel high-end and luxurious, but it also doesn't feel very cheap to me. That was something I was a little bit worried about. I think these larger palettes, you're definitely going to want to consider if these are the type of palettes you're going to take traveling, because they are quite large. But ultimately, I think the appeal with Ccolor Cosmetics is the palettes that they're duping. If you are someone that is interested in some of the color stories of these higher-end eyeshadow palettes, that's kind of how I would go about deciding which palette to try out. Really think about which dupes you want to try out. And I would also recommend doing your research. Jen Phelps does a lot of Ccolor Cosmetics dupe videos where she talks about and sometimes even goes over the two dupes that they have. So go search through her channel if you are interested. Also, there is another channel that I found as I was kind of doing some research. Her channel name is Hot Mess Mama, and she did an entire video where she talked about what palettes these are meant to do, because that's kind of hard information to find. There's a lot of palettes on there, and while some of them are obvious what they're duping, some of them are not quite as obvious. I'm going to link that video down below as well. But that is it for today's video. I hope that this review and my thoughts were helpful for you guys. Again, I will try and come back for you guys very soon once I've had a chance to thoroughly test all of these palettes out and share with you guys my thoughts on these and other newer products that I've been trying out as well. Thank you guys so much for stopping by my channel today. Those of you that are not yet subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe. Hit that notification bell just so that you know every time I upload a new video. And that's it for today. I hope that you guys have a great one, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye. But the palette that we're using, oh my gosh. Sometimes I start repeating myself and it's almost like any musicians out there. It's like when you play the piano and there's a spot in the music that you kind of mess up on, and you just keep going back and you keep messing up on the same spot over and over again. See my plumbing pipes right there? That's the toilet flushing that you hear in all of my videos. Seriously, it's kind of ridiculous. This is just gonna be right up your aisle? No. Alley. That's it. Right up your aisle. Oh, Mandy. And after using their, you don't need to tell them that. They don't need to hear how indecisive you are. They probably already know.